Since I have a PhD in testosterone, my friends always ask me for advice on how they can increase their testosterone levels. And since you, just like my friends, probably at the average range of testosterone, which is 400 nanogram per deciliter, you can easily double that and even triple that to 1,200 nanogram per deciliter of testosterone. Because you need to understand that the current range of testosterone levels is completely fucked. Just a few years ago, it used to be much higher than what it currently is. So I'm basically going to tell you, as someone with extremely high testosterone like myself, what I say to my friends with extremely low testosterone levels of 400 nanogram per deciliter. At that range of testosterone level, you're in some deep trouble, deep shit. You don't want to be there. The reason why it's so easy for me to pack on a shit ton of muscle mass, as you can see, is because I have high test. Now, so what did I tell my friend? Of course, I told him about the basics, but you probably already know about the basics. But yet, when I say you need to improve your sleep, you're probably saying, yeah, well, I sleep 8 hours a day. But you need to understand that simply being in bed for 8 hours a day is not enough. I'm gonna ask you a few questions. To improve your sleep, what are you actually doing? Do you use blue light blocking glasses 2 hours before sleep? Do you use a red light before going to bed? Do you view morning sunlight daily just so that you can set your circadian rhythm? These are all questions and things that you can actually start doing right now to improve your sleep and therefore increase your testosterone levels. Now, another one of the pillar is diet. Whilst everyone kind of agrees on what good sleep is, that you need 8 hours plus of sleep, that it needs to be deep, you need to be in the dark and whatever. People don't agree with the diet stuff. Yeah, there's the vegan that say it's the best diet, the carnivores, but seriously, who gives a fuck? Testosterone doesn't lie, and the building block to testosterone is cholesterol. This means that if your diet does not have any sort of cholesterol, like usually the vegan diet does, you're not going to be optimizing your testosterone levels. It's that simple. And the carnivore diet might sound like a great option, and maybe it is for you. Maybe even the vegan diet is good for you. But the carnivore diet also lacks a bunch of stuff. Carbs, whilst they can kind of seem like the devil for some people, carbs can really help you. But it really depends on the type of carbs. And on top of that, the carnivore diet kind of lacks micronutrients. Now, I know people say you can eat organ meat and you're gonna get your micronutrients, but the simplest diet is, of course, a whole food diet. But since cholesterol is the building block to testosterone, you'll need to focus on cholesterol, or you'll need to cholesterol max. Now, how do you cholesterol max? Eat more meat, eat more eggs, that simple. So that's two of the pillars. And now the third one, basically everyone agrees. You need to exercise. And the type of exercise you do doesn't really matter. But quite frankly, if you think you're overtraining, I think you're probably coping. I think we're all little bitches when it comes to training. I believe that you can train daily without being overtrained. Now, does this mean that if you go to the gym 2 hours a day, every single day, you'll be overtraining? Yeah, maybe. But just don't go 7 days a week if you're gonna do that. Personally, I just changed my exercise routine to 5 1-hour workouts a week. And on my rest days, I make sure that I either go for a run or do some kickboxing. Something very simple. And I've got an important message for the gym rats. For the lazy gym rats that don't do any cardio whatsoever, that don't play sports, if you're only going to the gym and weightlifting, you're not being healthy. Whilst it's great that you're weightlifting, trust me, you could be much healthier, have much higher testosterone levels if you were to just go on 1 or 2 runs a week of 30 minutes. So that was basically the basics, the 3 most important pillars: sleep, diet, exercise. But the basic will most likely only 2x your testosterone. So bring you from 400 nanogram per deciliter of testosterone to 800, maybe. Now, you need to understand that the X's don't really mean anything. It's not scientific. I'm just trying to get my point across, right? But if you want that full 3x on your testosterone levels, you'll need to do much more. You'll need to lock in. Because there are things that you probably don't even know about, that you probably never heard, that are affecting your testosterone levels. and they can be very stupid things. Have you ever heard of estrogenics? Or a type of estrogenic you probably heard about is microplastics. Now, if you're as woke as I am, which you probably aren't, you're probably already trying to avoid microplastic in estrogenics. But there are some subtle ways that you're exposing yourself to microplastic. I'm gonna give you an example. Polyester clothing. I swear, right now you're probably wearing at least one piece of clothing that is made of polyester. And polyester is plastic, microplastic, and in microplastic, they can be harmful chemicals, endocrine disruptors, phthalates, BPA. And now, if your boxers are made of polyester, you just lost all my respect. But fear not, you can gain it back by changing your boxers and your clothes to 100% cotton clothes. Now, I'm not gonna make a full video on estrogenics and microplastic. This is just one example, but there's so many things. I mean, nowadays you breathe air and you're basically breathing microplastic. So there's things you cannot get rid of, but trust me, you can put a lot of work on being woker and increasing your testosterone level. Now, another one that you might have heard about is cortisol levels. You know, cortisol, the stress hormone. You want to basically control your stress, or at least manage it, tone it down a little bit, especially if you're experiencing chronic stress. Chronic stress, chronic cortisol levels, and that's exactly what's going to ruin your testosterone levels. Cortisol is the killer of testosterone, so you absolutely need to lower your cortisol levels. Now, healthy spikes in cortisol is extremely important, and actually it might help you decrease your cortisol level, your chronic cortisol levels. So in the morning, experiencing a dramatic peak in cortisol is completely healthy and normal. You go get that morning sunlight, you experience a cortisol peak. But the things that are always on your mind, you go to bed and you're still thinking about something that's stressing you out, you absolutely need to get rid of that. I don't care what it is. A bad friend, a bad relationship, you fear going to work, you're stressed about school or whatever, get rid of that. Now, another one that people don't really talk about, but maybe your dad heard about it when he was trying to conceive, is temperature. Temperature, high temperature, kills testosterone, and it also kills sperm. That's why when you're trying to conceive and you're having a hard time, it's recommended that men avoid saunas, avoid a hot bath, and avoid hot car seats. And the hot temperature basically ruins your balls for the moment it's being eaten up. Now, I believe there's not enough research being made on heat and testosterone, but there's plenty of research made on heat and sperm quality. And every time you expose your balls to excess heat, you're gonna decrease sperm quality. And we can assume that when you decrease sperm quality, you'll be decreasing your testosterone levels. So keeping your balls cool with simple habits like manspreading is something that you gotta be thinking about. And avoiding hot sources like hot baths and saunas, there are things you can do. You can still go to the sauna and keep your balls cool. Maybe you go out here and there, or you bring an ice pack. But these are actually great ways to increase your testosterone even more. Now, still relating to temperature, you can do things like cold exposure, which cold exposure, when you do it properly, say you take a cold shower in the morning, is gonna increase your dopamine levels. And you know dopamine already, the motivation chemical. It's gonna increase your dopamine levels for like 4 to 6 hours. And we know that elevated dopamine levels will increase testosterone. Basically, every time you kind of increase testosterone, it increases dopamine a little bit. Every time you increase dopamine, it also increases testosterone a little bit. And this means that your phone is basically your worst enemy. Now, when you're watching content, except when it's content like this, where it's long form, it's raw, there's not any edits, you're not being fed so much dopamine. But when you watch normal content, Mr. Beast, or even worse, shorts, you're basically frying your dopamine receptors. And it's gonna take that much more dopamine for you to take the next hit. And if you're not sensitized to dopamine anymore, there's reasons to believe that your testosterone levels will not rise as much when you keep increasing your dopamine levels like that. And talking from personal experience, when I'm on my phone, you scroll for like 30 minutes, an hour. After that, you feel low testosterone as fuck. your brain does not even work anymore. So avoid that stuff and watch my videos instead. Now another one, and one I just made a video about, is light. Because testosterone runs on a circadian rhythm, and your circadian rhythm is set by light. Basically, when you view that bright morning sunlight, you set your circadian rhythm. And throughout the day, your brain is getting inputs. Is it bright? Is it dark? Should I start producing melatonin? So your light viewing patterns are actually extremely important for testosterone. And to not make this too complicated and start talking about red light, blue light, UVB, whatever. Basically, you want to have extremely bright days, and being outside is the brightest thing you can do, and extremely dark nights, avoiding any sort of artificial light during the night. And finally, supplements. I've got my supplements right here that I take every single night. I made a full video about them, but quickly, magnesium for sleep. Got omega-3s, not very that important. I don't recommend it. Boron, very good for free base testosterone, basically reducing SHBG. Then we have ashwagandha, sleep. I'm not gonna take that one much longer. I'm gonna finish this, but I'm not gonna buy it again. Didn't see any difference. Zinc, very important. Zinc, the best mineral to increase testosterone levels. But if you eat as much red meat as I am, probably useless, at least for me. And finally, the most important one, especially for me living in the north, vitamin D3 and K2. Now K2 is basically just to support vitamin D3, but vitamin D3 is the most important vitamin, at least the one I absolutely lack during winter, since every time I go outside I'm clothed, and anyways the sun does not even get high enough to get those UVB rays that when my skin is exposed to would produce vitamin D3 and therefore increase my testosterone levels. So vitamin D3, absolutely important. Even if you don't live in the north, I think you should be taking vitamin D3 because you're most likely not exposing yourself to enough sun. Alright, now this was a quick overview of basically everything you can do, not everything, but a bunch of things you can do to increase your testosterone levels, starting from the most important to most likely the least important. Supplements, not that important. Will it double your testosterone? Most likely not. Most likely not. But the first pillars, the basic, is certainly gonna 2x your testosterone if you're not doing any of those. And if you're already working on your basic, are you following all the action steps I mentioned? Most likely you're not as woke, you don't have high tests like I do, so you're probably not doing that. Now, jokes aside, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Mwah!